Several minutes passed and everyone remained silent, creating tension. Dollars asked Vikier and Tudor again if they thought the Night Hound was not a good person. Sancho, who had his arms crossed, and Tudor, who had his hand behind his head, were somewhat surprised and could not help but start to sweat. They did not know why she was asking this question. Vikier simply kept calm and stayed silent. Piggy, who was next to him, became somewhat nervous and thought that this was not good. With an angry look, Dollars asked him why he was so sure that the Night Hound was a bad person. She called Vikier's attention, asking him to respond quickly. A drop of sweat began to fall from his cheek. He remained silent without saying a single word. Tudor, who was next to him, started to observe him and with a regretful look realized that he had made a mistake. Several seconds passed and silence continued to reign. Dollars stood up, placed both hands on the table, and she assumed that he could not respond to that. He had asserted it based solely on testimonies, without any proof. As a journalist, if one said something that was not clear, one should not forget that this was a position in which one could ruin the innocent life of someone. Tudor interrupted, and with a serene look argued that the guards had also testified. The Night Hound had been the one who destroyed the building and killed the director of the orphanage. Upon hearing this, the attention of the saintess fixed on Tudor. With a serious look she explained that what the Imperial Guard had said was just a speculative statement, without physical evidence yet. Somewhere in the orphanage, which was connected by metal stairs, there was a bunch of hands full of blood. She argued that this incident had taken place in the basement of the orphanage. The mystery of the discovery of ancient corpses of boys and girls still remained unanswered. There were many strange things about that the Night Hound, the assailant, would harm children. Upon hearing this, both Anna, Bunka and Sinclair began to observe her and could not help but be somewhat surprised. Dollars' gaze was filled with firmness and confidence. Although the incident had occurred in an orphanage run by her family, no one knew why she remained neutral. She turned her head towards Anna and with a serious look explained that she needed to review the article little by little so that it was as objective and impartial as possible. Anna, who was somewhat nervous, reached out to one side and assumed that if that was the case, then there was nothing more they could write. Dollars replied that it wasn't too late to publish a critical article when the reason why the Night Hound did what he did became clear. With a lost look, she started looking at the ground and began to think about the Night Hound. Several seconds later, her face filled with a smile. If the Night Hound was truly evil, then they were going to criticize him very harshly. Vikier, who was sitting next to her, started to look down and fell silent. Then he raised his head and his gaze fixed on Dollars. At that precise moment, another club member opened the door and interrupted the conversation, calling Dollars' attention. Dollars, who had both arms resting on the table, felt somewhat confused and couldn't help but wonder what was happening. The student approached her and with a calm look explained that Professor Banshee, the club advisor, was calling her. He wanted them to edit the article again to say that the Night Hound would clearly be the bad guy. Dollars put her hand on her face, closed her eyes, and remembered that guy liked to create problems. She decided to meet with him and talk. Not long after, she left the room and closed the door. Tudor, who was watching the door with a surprised look, mentioned that the club president was very determined. Vikier started looking at the ground and replied that she used to be like that too. Upon hearing this, Tudor looked somewhat confused. Vikier began to remember the Dollars from his past life. She had the same appearance as the saintess who had led the Holy Knights at the front of the battlefield. While with one hand she was invoking a spell, she extended the other forward and with a determined look, she ordered the Holy Knights to keep pushing the front line harder since nowadays religious women were only corrupt, while two knights who were taking a break were talking among themselves. She appeared, clenched her fist and asked them if they could not save at least one more person during their break. She started to scream and revealed that in her time, if a demon appeared, she would immediately run to crush it. Remembering this, Vikier, who had his eyes closed, couldn't help but smile and feel an inner peace. He hoped that his actions would be seen as those of a villain. But it wasn't a bad feeling when someone wanted to know the truth. Dollars met with the professor and they both began to discuss among themselves. Vicar thanked her from the bottom of his heart. The next day, it dawned and the academy's speaker began to sound so that all the students would wake up. Upon hearing the sound, Piggy, who was sleeping like a log, started to open his eyes. Although he was very sleepy, he still decided to get up and sat on the bed. Vicar, who had gotten up before him and was doing some exercise, said good morning to him. Piggy started to remove the sleep from his eyes and returned good morning to him. In the academy, everyone had to wake up at 6 a.m. When the alarms went off, the students headed to the training area in front of the dormitories. The students arrived at the training area and began to run to warm up. They participated in the exercises, following the instructor who was at the front to wake up, and then started their day with a light run. Once the exercises were finished, everyone took separate paths. Some were going to catch up on their sleep and some were going to take a shower while others were going to go to the cafeteria. After doing this, Piggy was quite tired. While he was walking next to Vicar, he closed his eyes and sighed. He believed that his brain would be more active if he slept during morning exercises. Vicar, who was next to him, explained that moving the body helped keep one's brain active. Piggy replied that he didn't need to be told what was right. Behind them were Sancho and Tudor. He started looking at Vicar, and with a cheerful smile asked how someone like him would be popular with girls without being empathetic, advising him to improve his empathy towards Piggy immediately. Piggy refused. Tudor put his hand inside his pocket, turned his head towards Vicar and asked if anyone was free this weekend. He wanted to go have fun in the city. Piggy started to show a smile since for him this sounded good. There was actually a book that he wanted to buy in the city. Sancho, who had his arms behind his head, mentioned that there was a restaurant that he wanted to try. Vicar simply started to walk in silence. Upon seeing this, Tudor asked if he was free this weekend. Vicar came out of his trance, and with a calm look replied that he needed to do volunteering during the weekends. Sancho, who had his arms behind his head, was somewhat surprised to hear this. Piggy started to touch his neck, closed his eyes and thought that Vicar had many deductions. Tudor crossed his arms and began to smile and asked if it was Professor Vincey Mogg again. He was messing with Vicar even though Vicar wasn't doing anything. Vicar started to walk, turned his back on them and fell silent. He began to move away from them and told them that they could go to the city without him, leaving them all somewhat confused. They also started to walk and Tudor thought that volunteering sounded fun. Piggy didn't want their friend to do this alone and they also decided to go with him. According to Sancho, the more they were the better. Tudor put his hand under his chin and with a confused look thought that this was very unusual. Sancho was somewhat surprised and asked him what it was. Vicar began to move away from them and Piggy started to follow him. When Vicar was close, Tudor naturally felt drawn to him. It was as if he were his older brother. According to Sancho, he was someone quiet but exuded charisma when Sancho was a mercenary. People like Vicar were natural leaders. Piggy, who was walking behind Vicar, could not help but start to smile and feel an inner peace since for him Vicar was amazing. Tudor and Sancho began to follow Vicar and Piggy and at that moment a student who was accompanied by two women passed by their side. Incredible people like Tudor. From the physically large family of Don Quixote and Sancho, the transfer student from the Northern Guild of Mercenaries were approaching Vicar first. For Piggy he was also kind since he had helped him at the welcome party when he had difficulties and he was someone perfect in his studies and training. Piggy approached Vicar and couldn't help but start to smile since when he was near him, he could feel that he could do anything. At that moment, Vicar turned his head back and his eyes filled with rage. Upon feeling his gaze, Piggy panicked and couldn't help but start to feel fear. The student who was accompanied by the two women began to emit a sinister aura of green color, which started to expand everywhere. Upon feeling this aura, Vicar turned around. With a smile, he began to walk away from them and Vicar started to stare at him intently. With a calm look, he remembered that Piggy knew the students well, so he asked if he knew anything about this guy. Upon hearing this, Piggy was somewhat surprised. He mentioned that the guy who was in between the two female students was the most handsome student in this school, named sophomore Bane Kudzak. Vicar started to stare at him with a murderous look and couldn't help but clench his teeth tightly. This guy was exuding the same aura as the 10 elite corpses. No one would have thought they would be so active within society. Bane prepared to turn the corner. Vicar and the others turned around and their gaze fixed on him. Vicar didn't know whether to attack now, but for now he decided not to do it since there were going to be many casualties. He couldn't let the future heroes get hurt. Sancho, Piggy, and Tudor were somewhat surprised and called his attention. Vicar started looking at Bane and decided to follow him under the pretext of going to rest since he wasn't feeling well. He began walking towards him with the intention of gathering some information first. He activated the second slot skill called Silent Heal Mashusu of Ranka Plus. Vicar began to take off his glasses and with a determined look decided to follow him, and at that moment, Dolores started to go down the stairs and she was somewhat surprised to see how handsome RMC was. Her eyes filled with surprise and she began to scream. Upon hearing this, Vicar turned his head to one side and upon seeing Dolores he couldn't help but become alert and think that this was not good. Upon hearing the scream, the attention of Tudor and Sancho shifted towards them, and they were shocked to see what their eyes were seeing. Dolores fell from the stairs to the ground. Vicar took off his glasses and approached her to help her. Tudor and the others began to run towards her asking her if she was okay. Tudor touched Vicar's shoulder with his hand and with a serious look gave him the order to hurry up and apologize. Vicar decided to obey, lowered his head and with a sincere look apologized to her. Sancho helped Dolores get up and she forgave Vicar since she was also careless. According to her he was so muscular that she had thought she had collided with a wall. Vicar put on his glasses again and looked away. Dolores began to observe him and her eyes filled with confusion since she had not felt his presence. She did not know who the hell he was. Vicar started to look down. There were many people, so it was better for him to delay his plans to follow him. The student Bane went down the stairs. Vicar turned his head to one side and remained silent, watching the stairs. As night fell, Bane, who had his arms around the girls' necks, took them to a dark place. They thought he was much more cunning than he seemed. Bane suddenly stopped walking and decided to tell them some bad news. Upon hearing this, the two girls were somewhat confused. He revealed that recently a boy had appeared and had been bothering him. Because of him, he hadn't been able to eat properly. Upon hearing that he was harassing Bane, the girl with purple hair decided not to forgive him. He explained that he was going to see who that guy was, but because he had mistakenly worn his school uniform, he had run instead. He could have seen that one of Bane's students from the academy was there. The blue-haired girl asked him not to worry since if that guy came to the academy, they would stop him, as they would always be on Bane's side. Bane began to look down and thank them from the bottom of his heart. According to him, their hearts were beautiful like their faces. At that moment, he put his hands on their faces, leaving them in shock. Bane began to imagine the Nighthound wearing a pandemic mask. He knew that Vicar had the ability of a high-ranking graduate, so he knew that he had not died in an explosion like that. Gradually, the faces of the two girls began to deform. Seeing that the Nighthound was attacking places connected to locations where he had eaten, he knew that he was a human who had felt the presence of a demon. The demon Bane, who had his hands on the girls' faces, slowly began to devour them, and his eye turned green. The face of one of the girls appeared on Bane's face. She was very scared and started to ask for help. His eye began to shine as he realized that the Nighthound had something to do with Andromelia's death. He belonged to the demon's 10 elite corpses. And he was the 9th corpse named Dantalion. This is the end of the video. If you guys want to see the next part, the next day, Vicar returned to the journalism club along with the others, and despite being here, his eyes showed that in reality his mind was thinking about the demon Dantalion who was disguised as a student named Bane. The news about the incidents that did not cease reached the club. Everyone started to talk among themselves about this topic, and Vicar simply remained silent, lost in his thoughts. Next to our boy were Tudor and Bianca, who had their hands resting on the table where there were a bunch of reports while they were reading. Anna placed her hands on the table and explained that she had compiled the incidents that occurred inside and outside of the academy. Now that there was a shortage of manpower in the club, she wanted new first-year students to participate in activities to lend a hand. Upon seeing the enormous amount of reports, Tudor was somewhat surprised, while on the other side Bianca and Vicar remained calm. Dollars was next to Anna and she was absorbed in reading a report. Anna, who had both hands resting on the table, started looking at them and gave them the order to choose a report, investigate it, and bring an article. Peggy picked up one of the reports, and his eyes filled with fear, and he couldn't help but get nervous since this was going to be his first article after joining Rukn. Bianca took 2 reports, started to read, and with a serene look realized that many incidents had occurred. She did not know what was happening in the ecliptic. There were a large number of incidents. One was about the premonition of terrorists. It was said that a terrorist announced he would poison the river of Wenzir, the capital of Rock. Imperial Capital was investigating the case centered on Laurie Wyathan. Another incident called a handsome theatre actor disappears. Actor B disappeared when returning home after a play. It was very likely that the crime had been committed by a fanatic. Also occurred a strange murder case where the head of the family disappeared without leaving any trace. There was an incident called Don't Ask Questions on the Street. Mr., who had injured several people on the street, was sentenced to death. He still complained that he had not committed any crime and that his face had changed. The last but not least was called Rapid Increase in Disappearance Cases. The disappearance cases in Wenzir were increasing. It could still not be identified the culprit, and many thought it was the work of the night hound. After carefully examining each report, using his hand, Vicar picked up a particular report that caught his attention quite a bit. The title of this report was Case of Disappearance Within the Academy. 3 students from the academy had disappeared. There were many witnesses, since normally the 3 went together, concluding that it had been an escape for Lau. Upon reading the report, Vicar's eyes filled with rage and he clenched his teeth tightly. On the report was the photograph of student Benet, better known as Dantalion. Vicar was fully aware that this bastard was one of the 10 elite corpses. Several hours later, night fell and the moon emerged, illuminating every corner of the dark city. In some middle-class neighborhood there was a small house, inside were the husband and wife sleeping peacefully. Suddenly the husband opened his eyes and began to gaze at the ceiling in silence. Several seconds later, while the wife was sleeping like a log, he removed the sheet and quietly sat up. On the upper floor, there was a wooden window and the light from the street lights outside was coming inside through it. The husband went up to the second floor, sat on the sofa, started looking at the ground and remained thinking in silence. After a while, he lifted his head and his pupils changed completely and turned green just like those of demons. In front of him appeared several masked demons. Among them was Afibo, a guy who wore a tie, another guy who carried giant scissors as a weapon, and a woman with red hair. The husband began to observe them and asked if they had discovered anything about the plague mask that was following them. Here we are revealed that Afibo is the 9th corpse, Dantalion's subordinate. He began to speak in demonic tongue and started to reveal everything he knew. The woman was named Gerontu. She was also the 9th corpse, Dantalion's subordinate. She stayed listening in silence. The guy who carried giant scissors as a weapon was named Eve. He also began to speak in demonic tongue. And finally, the guy wearing a tie was Fido. The husband who was sitting in the chair was the 9th corpse, Dantalion. He put his hand under his chin and concluded that the guy with the plague mask was very careful since they had not seen the mask after that day. He extended his hand and his 4 fingers transformed into the sharp faces of the victims he had devoured. With a serene look he thought that this could not be avoided and ordered them to express and the scope of work from now on. He pointed his fingers at his subordinates and fired 4 powerful shots, which hit them squarely in the faces. The faces that Dantalion had on his fingers began to merge with the masked demons. He decided it was time to share his faces. In the blink of an eye, the faces of the victims that Dantalion had devoured merged with the demons, who now appeared to be simple humans. Now they could work without having to worry about being discovered. He gave his subordinates the order to go to the areas with more light and find the mask of the pandemic. While Dantalion was explaining this, the door of the room slowly began to open. It was his wife. Upon opening the door, she saw her husband sitting in the chair and the demons, wondering what was happening. She put her hand near her mouth and couldn't help but sweat as she didn't know what he was doing awake at this hour in the morning. With a worried look, she asked who these guys were. Dantalion began to stare at her with a calm look and remained silent for several seconds. Then he closed his eyes and sighed as he wanted to admire that lively face a little longer. At that moment, Fido drew his weapon, appeared behind the wife, placed the blade on her neck and with a cold expression prepared to end her life. Dantalion asked him to make sure to leave her face untouched. Upon hearing this, the wife's eyes filled with fear. She did not know what was happening, and just before she could do anything about it, Fido followed his master's order and slit the woman's throat, causing blood to splash everywhere. The head of the wife fell to the ground and her eyes filled with tears. The plan to open the door had gradually been delayed due to the death of Andromelius and the appearance of the pandemic mask. Dantalion put his hand over his face and his face began to merge with the other faces. He was very upset. His hairstyle changed, and he asked Aphibo to follow him since they had to see her. Upon hearing this, Aphibo started observing him and upon seeing his new face, he couldn't help but be somewhat surprised. The face of Dantalion changed again. Now he was a handsome man. He put his hand under his chin and with a smile decided to go and relieve his accumulated stress. After a few hours, he dressed like a priest and went to the church that had a candle lamp on the ceiling. He closed his eyes and began to show a kind smile. At that moment, a woman appeared and asked why he was smiling. Dantalion, who had his hands resting on his abdomen, continued smiling. This woman was none other than Saintess Dollars. He replied that he could not help but smile having the beautiful Saintess standing in front of him. She began to stare at him with a calm look, called Dantalion Sir Quilty and explained that she had not come to see him to make jokes. He reached out his hand to her and with a smile changed the subject. He was worried because her visits had become scarce lately. She approached him and with a serene look replied that recently there had been many murders and missing persons. So she had been busy covering them. The bastard Dantalion began to pretend, saying that the activities of her academy club had become busy. The world was becoming increasingly brutal. On the outside he started to show a kind smile, but deep down he was happy since he was the one responsible behind those cases. Dollars started to look at him with an insecure gaze and she remained silent. Quilty Lun Indulgentia was the head of the Indulgentia family, the collateral line of the Quo Vadis family. They were currently volunteering and managing the resources of Quo Vadis in the orphanage, monastery and hospitals. But they were supporting the exemption system that erased the profits of rich sinners. She knew that this two-faced bastard was hiding something. He approached her and with a smile asked why she had to talk to him. Dollars began to stare at him and remained thinking in silence. With a serious look she extended her hand to one side and replied that she had come to request that the exemption system be abolished since it was wrong to exempt someone from all sins just because one was rich. He opened his eyes and with a serene look asked what was wrong with this, since the exemption was a policy that had been in the church until now. Asking if donating a large sum of money wasn't already sufficient punishment. With a look full of determination she mentioned that sins were something one must expose oneself to God for. And forgiveness was granted once one had received the appropriate punishment. She placed her hand over her chest and with a determined look revealed that the people affected by the exemption could not be saved. Her words left this bastard in shock and speechless. Several seconds later he closed his mouth and realized that this was getting out of hand. He put his hands on his abdomen, turned his back to her and explained that he was just following the doctrine of the church. According to him it was better for her to talk to her father, the cardinal. She remained listening in silence, and he asked her to please leave since he had heard that the students from the academy were coming to volunteer today. So there was no need to have a dispute within the Quo Vadis family in front of her juniors. She turned her back to him, looked back with a calm gaze, and decided to come back later so they could talk a little more about this. After saying this, she began to head towards the exit of the church. The bastard Dantalion put his hand over his face and his eyes transformed into those of a demon, and he couldn't help but smile. His gaze fixed on our girl as he thought this was beautiful. Some veins appeared on his face, causing him to grit his teeth and start bleeding. He had almost given in to his impulse to collect her face. But he couldn't do this yet and needed to hold himself back. He started to imagine her lying on top of some masks filled with blood. The saintess was the finest product he had discovered in this world. He wanted to collect her face when her face was in despair after chaos descended into this world. He began to hug himself and his body started to tremble. He was so anxious for that moment to arrive that a demonic eye appeared behind his head. They had to open the door as soon as possible for chaos to descend as soon as possible. After a few hours, someone wearing boots stood up. This was our boy Vikir. He was in front of the entrance of the orphanage. This was the orphanage that Cindy Wayne had found after analyzing the books of Andromalius. It was very likely that it was connected to the 10 elite corpses. This orphanage had the flag of the Quo Vadis family. And if a demon was planted within the Iron Blood family and the Holy Divine family, then it was also very likely that there were demons hidden within other families. After the explosion, Night Bloodhound caught attention, so he wanted to use volunteering as an excuse to slowly investigate the students. While Vikir was distracted, Tudor, Sancho and Piggy appeared with a cheerful smile. Sancho began to observe Vikir. Tudor and Piggy started to look at the orphanage and were somewhat surprised to see that this was the orphanage where they had come to volunteer. Tudor put his arm over Vikir's neck and said that he was very lucky to have friends who were willing to volunteer with him, to which Vikir responded that he had never asked them to come. He sighed and fell silent, his eyes filled with concern as things had become bothersome. Tudor's family had control over the orphanage and Dantalion's bastard was the priest of the church. This is the end of the video. If you guys want to see the next part, to watch this video please subscribe our channel, like and share the video. Thank you for watching the full video. The next day the time for classes arrived and all the students went to the academy. Professor Vincey Mogg was somewhat angry. Next to the professor there was a table on which lay the corpse of a giant scorpion known as Venompion. He crossed his arms and asked who had written the report. Vikir, who was holding a notebook with one hand, got on stage indicating that he was the one who had written the report. According to Vikir's report, the Venompion had a second stinger that no one had discovered in scorpion venom. The professor thought this was some kind of joke, so he threatened him that if the information was false, he would deduct 10 points from all members of I-Score. Vikir had come in first place in the written evaluation and the teacher asked him if he understood what he wanted to say. Vikir, who was holding the red notebook with one hand, started to sweat and became somewhat confused and thought that it had been a mistake to reveal this. He could not believe that this information had still not been discovered in this era. Vincey Mogg took out a scalpel, approached the corpse of the giant scorpion, began to observe it and with a smile decided to check if there really was a second stinger hidden in the shell of the torso. He approached with precision the scalpel to the belly of the scorpion and instead of making a clean cut, he drove the scalpel hard, causing the blood to come out to the outside. At that moment, something sharp shot out from the belly of the scorpion towards the professor, causing him to drop the scalpel and take several steps back. All the students who were present in the room were left speechless and in shock at the same time. The reality was that Vikir's report was correct, as the scorpion really had a second stinger. The stinger, which was full of venom, stood right in front of the professor's face. He swallowed saliva, started to look at it and couldn't help but become terrified and start sweating. With the stinger so close, the professor fell on his back against the ground, gritted his teeth and began to feel fear. Just before the stinger could have pierced the professor, Vikir had appeared in using the red notebook. He had stopped the stinger. He began to observe the venom and asked Venki Mogg if this had demonstrated the authenticity of his report. Venki Mogg was perplexed and started to sweat like never before. He was unable to believe that there really was a second stinger, nor how a simple student knew about the venompions, and had made a great discovery that solved the mysterious cases of death. Now that Vicker's report was correct, he decided to award 1 point to all the students of the Ice Corps. As for Vicker, the professor asked him to come to the laboratory after class for a more detailed explanation about this report. He kept calm and with a quiet voice responded with an understood. All the students were shocked. They could not believe that a student like him had made such a discovery. The professor, who still did not believe this, approached the table again and began inspecting the stinger. Vicker got off the stage, turned his back on the professor, and started climbing up the stairs to reach his table. Everyone's gaze was fixed on our boy. They didn't know how he had been able to do such research. Everyone thought he was good at sports, but no one expected that he would also be good in studies. He was impressive since in the last swimming competition he had even competed against Tudor and Sancho. Vicker reached his seat and using his hand moved his chair back to sit down. Peggy began to look at him and couldn't help but start smiling and feeling happy seeing that he had succeeded. As the rays of sunlight were entering the classroom, with a lost look, Vicker began to stare at the ground. According to the students hidden behind glasses, and his hair was incredible. At first, Vicker remained watching in silence, but then he closed his eyes and began to remember the explosion from yesterday. The explosion from the day before was so powerful that it destroyed most of the orphanage until turning everything into ashes. It had been so powerful that it even affected Vicker, who had lost an arm, his face, and many muscles in his body. But this was no problem for him since using regeneration, he began to slowly heal his body. Once his body healed completely, he put his hands in front to protect himself from any other possible attack. He was in shock as he couldn't believe that the explosion had been so powerful. Back to the present, he opened his eyes and started thinking about Afibo just before the explosion. That bastard had disappeared. The only thing he had obtained was the accounting book from the director's safe of the orphanage. The orphanage was located in the middle of the city. One of the books he had found contained information on the whereabouts of children who had been used as food for demons. Since there was no connection on to that place, it was also possible that there were multiple 10 elite corpses in the imperial palace. In the middle of the moonlight, a man climbed onto the roof of a house. This man was wearing the academy uniform, and he had been responsible for blowing up the body of the orphanage director. He couldn't help but start to smile and thought that he had finished with the Night Hound. Back to the present, Vicker's eyes filled with appetite, and he began to observe carefully the other students. In the class there was a demonic presence, and there was a possibility that there could be one of the 10 elite corpses. The academy had a newspaper that was famous even in the imperial capital. Its influence was enormous. Newspapers published daily always sold like hotcakes. There wasn't a single student who didn't buy the newspaper. At the same time, in the journalism club of the Academy Rukian, a woman began to look at the ground. She was none other than Dolores Renkovades, a third-year student and president of Rukian. She tightly clenched her fist, extended the other hand to one side, and with an exciting look welcomed everyone to Rukian. The journalism club filled with students. Dolores placed her hands on her hips and started to show a smile. They had joined Rukian, which had a reputation for being tough, demonstrating how persistent they were. She decided to start with the introductions. Tutor Le Mancher Don Quixote, first-year student of the academy, joined the club. He clenched his fist and with a smile mentioned that in academic work and in the club he planned to become an elite that did everything well. Sancho Baratrier also joined the club. With a determined look, he mentioned that he didn't want people to think that he was simply a strong idiot. He had joined the journalism club to become an intelligent man. Sinclair also joined the club. She started pointing upwards with her finger and with a cheerful smile explained that she had joined the club thinking that the information here was superior. Bianca Poasher also joined the club. Among the clubs, she had chosen the one that had more vision for the future. She was going to do her best. Piggy was nervous as a tomato. He closed his eyes, started sweating like crazy. From the beginning he had liked collecting and analyzing information. He believed that the journalism club was his vocation. Vicar kept calm and explained that he had heard it was a school rule to join the club, so for this reason, he had decided to follow Piggy. His eyes were showing that he had other plans. Rukayan was a journalism club that was famous both inside and outside the academy. If he stayed here, he would be able to obtain a lot of important information. Although it was a bit uncomfortable because the saint was here, he had no other option. Dollars, who had her hands on her hips, approached Vicar and with a serious look explained that he could not become a reporter for Rukayan with that kind of unenthusiastic attitude. The girl who was next to her and had her hand under her chin looked somewhat surprised to see Vicar. She took out a newspaper, pushed the saintess aside, stood in front of Vicar, and she couldn't help but start to smile since she couldn't believe that such a famous person as him would come to their club, leaving the saintess in shock. The photograph of Vicar drying his sweat after the match became so famous that he even appeared in newspapers, being named Facial Genius. Tudor started pointing at the newspaper with his finger, turned his head towards him, closed his eyes and began to laugh at Vicar, who simply remained silent without saying a word. Dollars started to look at the girl with a confused look and asked when an article like this had come out. This girl was named Anna and she was a third-year student, vice principal of Rukayan. She started to laugh and mentioned that she had received a report about a new handsome student. If she didn't publish it, she couldn't consider herself a reporter. Dollars put her hand over her face and she began to feel somewhat disappointed. Anna placed one hand on her hip, extended the other to the side, and all the students who had joined the club formed a horizontal line. Due to the fact that all the other second and third year students had gone to do reports, Anna decided to start activities with the people who were here today. X day, X month, early in the morning, an incident occurs where a mysterious stranger appeared and destroyed the orphanage. Everyone sat at a table and began reading the reports. Piggy asked if this was the explosion that had occurred yesterday. To which Dollars replied yes, on the day of the incident she had left the academy and had made some reports. With a calm look, Anna explained that they assumed the culprit in this case was the same as the culprit of the recent murder case in the imperial capital. What was shocking was that many children's corpses had been found in this orphanage. Piggy, who was holding the report with both hands, started to look at her and he couldn't help but start sweating and being somewhat shocked. He brought his hand to his mouth, began to whisper and asked Vicar, who was sitting next to him, if this was also the work of a monster. Vicar, who was holding a report, began to observe it and thought that the bodies of the boy and the girl were the work of the demon. Anna intertwined her hands, rested her elbows on the table and with a smile thought that everyone should decide the headline of this article. Dollars began to read the report and she started to feel sad. Everyone took some pens and began to write headlines for the article. Bianca took the report with both hands since she couldn't find anything that caught her attention. Tudor, who was sitting in front of her, put his hand under his chin and with an uncertain look asked why they still didn't have the name of the villain. The ruthless criminals received nicknames like Butcher of Humans and Bluebeard. Anna thought Tudor's opinion was good. Upon hearing this, he got very excited and suggested the name Master Dark of the Sword. But she said that this name was the worst, making poor Tudor depressed. He started to imagine several villains and first suggested the name Bomber, who brings misfortune. But according to Anna it was too long. Then, Tudor suggested the name Orphanage Killer and Mr. Terrorist. While everyone was talking, Dollars began to quietly write a report. Several seconds later, she opened her mouth saying the name of the Night Hound. She started to remember Vicar's mask. The mask that she had picked up at the scene clearly belonged to the Night Hound. She didn't know why it was there. Humility that did not boast of prestige or wealth. He had also treated his neighbors in the marginalized neighborhoods who suffered from Red Death with sincerity. That love and devotion towards the less fortunate was real. For this reason, she had thought that stealing the tears of the saint was a great cause. With a sad look, she began to wonder why he had been at the place of the disaster yesterday. Now she doubted if he had killed the director of the orphanage and the children. With a lost look, she began to gaze at the ground. Her eyes had not deceived her, he was not a villain. If the culprit was Nighthound, then it was possible that something was happening. While she was lost in her thoughts, someone asked if Nighthound was good. Upon hearing this, she came out of her trance and with a surprised look began to wonder what was happening. With a cheerful smile, everyone started to watch Dollars. Nighthound was a nomenclature of barbaric style. So the violence was clearly revealed. It was something gloomy that produced fear. Sinclair raised her hand and with a smile decided to name the villain as Nighthound. Dollars began to blush. Quickly she covered her mouth. The reality was that she had murmured the name of Nighthound. Anna asked her opinion about this headline. The villain who brought fear to the imperial capital, Nighthound. She refused, saying that the Rukian articles should contain only facts. There was still no information that he was the culprit. Tudor, who was sitting next to Vikir, turned to him and with a serene look asked what he thought about this. Vikir, who had both hands resting on the table, asked what he meant by this. Tudor wanted to know if Vikir believed that the Nighthound was a villain or not. He started looking at Tudor and explained that he had no idea. No one would have thought that the words Nighthound would come out of the saint's mouth. Tudor approached him, put his arm around his neck, rested the other hand on his shoulder, closed his eyes and started to laugh. He wanted to know Vikir's opinion. At first, he felt somewhat annoyed, but then he began to look at the ground and remained thinking in silence. He opened his mouth and mentioned that the truth was that he was not a good person, so he must be a villain. This was the same opinion Tudor had, but at that moment, someone hit the table hard, leaving Tudor and Vikir in shock. This person was none other than Dollars. She began to stare at Vikir and asked if the Nighthound really wasn't a good person. With an angry look, she asked them how they were so sure of this. Tudor removed his hand from Vikir's shoulder and started to sweat. Upon hearing Dollars' words, Vikir couldn't help but feel somewhat surprised. This is the end of the video. If you guys want to see the next part,